Hello and welcome to the English box. My name is Edward Maxwell Wood and today I will be presenting you the present perfect simple tense. Now this tense is largely considered to be one of the most difficult tenses to understand in the English language. And hopefully today this video will help you to decipher and understand the different situations in which we use this tense. First of all, we will look at the structure of the tense, how we build the sentence in positive, negative, and as a question. And then we will move on and look at the different situations in which we use this tense. So, to begin with, the structure. We have 4 example sentences on the board. Number 1, I have eaten breakfast already. Number 2, I have worked as a journalist for 2 years. Number 3, I have never heard of Cristiano Ronaldo. Number 4, he has already done his homework. These are all sentences in present simple perfect, present perfect simple, and all in positive. So we begin with the subject. So I, you, he, she, it, we, or they, which is then followed by the auxiliary. This is have for the first and second person, plural and singular, and has for the third person, singular. So he, she, it has. This is then followed by the past participle. In the examples given here, eaten and worked are the past participles, the third column, or the third form of the verb. The complement is then added to the sentence to complete it. In this case, breakfast already and as a journalist for 2 years. So here you have the structure in positive. What about the structure in negative? If we move on to the next slide, we can see 2 more examples of negative sentences in the present perfect simple. I haven't seen the film yet, and she hasn't had lunch yet. If we break these down and put these into a table, you can see that the structure is very similar to the positive. All you have to do is add not to the auxiliary verb, which means the sentence is I have not seen the film yet, or she has not had lunch yet. You can contract these sentences. You can make the auxiliary and negative a little bit shorter by saying I haven't seen the film yet and she hasn't had lunch yet. Remember, if you use the contractions when you're speaking English, this will make you sound a lot more natural. Moving on to the question form, just as in all the other tenses, when we form a question, you have to put the auxiliary before the subject. You have to invert the subject and the auxiliary verb. So this becomes have you eaten instead of you have eaten, and has she been to America? So you can see the auxiliary has or have first, then the subject, then the past participle, and then finally the complement. Okay, so we've talked about the structure of the present perfect simple. But when do we use the present perfect simple? Well, the first situation we're going to look at is for an action that started in the past and continues in the present. So it's true in the present. 2 examples here. I've worked for the company for 10 years and I've worked for the company since 2000. So the action started in the year 2000. I had my job interview, I got the job, and then for the next 10 years, I have worked for the company, and I still work for the company. In many other languages, this kind of action is expressed with some kind of present simple tense. But in English, we use this present perfect simple. One more thing to notice, the use of for and since. For is used for the duration of the action, in this case 10 years, and since with the time point, in this case the year 2000. Okay, Let's move on to the second situation in which we use the present perfect simple. On this slide, we can see another table, another graph, displaying when or how we use the present perfect simple. We use the present perfect simple for an unspecified time in the past, for an action that happened at an unspecified time in the past. If we look at the example sentences, we may be able to understand this a little bit better. So, the first example sentence. England have scored 4 times against an underperforming German side. He has grown up a lot. People have not travelled to Mars. I have already read that book. It's really good. And man has walked on the moon. Now we have to consider what the speaker is trying to express. The important information in these sentences isn't when the action happened, perhaps because the action happened very recently, or it's only happened once in the past. He just wants to convey this information to the person listening. In sentences with the present perfect simple, we can use adverbs such as those circled in the bottom right hand corner, such as ever, before, several times, never, so far, already, and yet. Notice these different adverbs do not specify one particular time. They only demonstrate or suggest that the action has happened in the past. On the other hand, we do not use adverbs or time expressions such as yesterday, last night, and last year, because these identify one particular time point in the past. So, with the present perfect simple, you cannot use such expressions, and if you do add these time expressions to the present perfect simple, then it will sound incorrect. Okay, so now we're going to do a few exercises to see if you can recognize the mistakes in the following 10 sentences. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video and correct the 10 sentences. Once you have corrected the 10 sentences, you can press play again and we can check those sentences on the next slide. So, if you'd like to pause the video and check the sentences now. Okay, now you've corrected the sentences, let's move on to the final slide and see if you have answered these questions correctly. So here is the final slide with the 10 sentences. Look through the different sentences and decide if you made the right corrections. If you didn't make the right corrections, I suggest you look through the video again, listen to the explanations and look at the explanations on the whiteboard, and then try the exercise again. Okay, thank you very much for watching the video here at EnglishBox.com. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Goodbye.